Dan, I have said this before, and you have too. There are certain episodes of the Hounds podcast that we get excited for.
Yes, indeed there are. And today is one of those.
Is today one of them?
I think it is.
It is.
Yes.
It is one of them because we are sitting across from a gentleman. His name is Adam Haritan. And, you know, Dan, we are both YouTube channels. And if we think our YouTube channels are big, they're not big anymore sitting next to this guy here.
They are not.
He's got he's over 500,000 subscribers.
Yes.
Adam Haritan, his YouTube channel is called Learn Your Land. And I have just been anxious for this opportunity to get to know him and get the subscribers and listeners to the Hounds podcast to know Adam. So let me introduce Adam Haritan of Learn Your Land. Adam, welcome to the Hounds podcast.
Thanks for inviting me, and I'm happy to hear you're excited to have me on, although I don't know if you say that before every episode or if I'm just special, and you guys really are excited.
No, you are definitely special.
Yes. Usually it's just
Thanks.
the two of us, so, you know, we're used to each other. So this is something new, something different. We are definitely excited, and I'm anxious to hear all about this Learn Your Land that you have going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Adam, you are a multimedia educator. You have a website. You're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, mostly a YouTube channel. But what the heck? Your channel is massive. And if you look at all of your episodes, you get massive views. Holy cow. What's it like? Tell us what it's like to have a successful YouTube channel.
I mean, I think it's kind of funny that you think that because I don't think of that at all. And I'm not just saying that. I really don't. I don't check numbers. I don't think of my channel as being a big channel. When you're talking about those views, I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the recent videos. They don't get that many plays. I guess some of them do okay. But
hundreds
I guess
of thousands of views. I call that a lot.
on some videos. I mean, I don't try to appease the algorithm. I don't study analytics. And interestingly, whenever I do publish a video, I don't check stats for maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yeah, I don't. I stopped doing that because it kind of made me, I don't know, kind of antsy in a way. Trying to figure out what's going on, what's not going on. And I understand that can help you become a better creator. But I think that if you try to appease the algorithm, you could do things that you don't really feel is true in your heart. And I try to create things that I genuinely want to create and that I genuinely feel people would be interested in. And by the time I release it and 3 weeks goes by, I'm already on to the next video. I don't feel as emotionally invested in that video. And so if it does poorly, it doesn't destroy me. If it does wonderfully, it's a nice surprise. But I'm already on to the next video, so it doesn't really sway me in either direction too much.
So, Adam, here is how I stumbled upon your YouTube channel. And I think this will start making sense to everyone out there listening to this episode. You did a video on the American chestnut tree. Recent one. You did one on the American elm, and then you've just recently have done one on the eastern white pine, and you are just totally engaging. You educate in the way you talk about ecology, biology, I guess the science of the forest. You make it understandable for like normal people like us. The episode that you did on the chestnut, I was thinking of my dad that entire time because I've only seen one chestnut in my entire life, and that was when I was a little boy out in the woods with my dad, and he got all excited because he stumbled upon a chestnut. He's saying that they're all dead.
Yeah, they're not all dead. I think it's a myth that they're extinct for sure because they're not extinct. Some people think they're incredibly rare. I mean, they're not as common as oaks. They're not as, depending on where you live, they're not as common as pines, but they're not super, super uncommon. You just got to go into the habitats where they like to grow. And you're not going to find old growth chestnuts. They just don't exist out here in the East. I mean, I know out West, some plantings are able to produce larger American chestnuts, but that's far outside of its native range. But they're very fun to find. I love finding them. And I think you're referring to the video where I found maybe dozens of living chestnuts, because I've done a couple American chestnut videos. But yeah, it's almost like, I got into mushroom hunting many, many years ago. And the thrill of mushroom hunting is you don't really know what you're going to find. You don't know if you're going to find it. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. With trees, it's a little different because trees are perennial. So they're always there. I mean, at least for a couple of years, if not for a couple of decades, if not much longer than that. But you can treat trees as mushrooms, meaning you can kind of hunt trees and try to find things that maybe you wouldn't normally find in certain areas. And the thrill is just as huge as finding a morel mushroom or a patch of chanterelles. That's how I feel when I find American chestnuts.
Wow. Yeah, I always thought of the thrill of mushroom hunting was finding out what happened after you ate them, not just finding them. But but just to step back a little bit. So, how long have you had the YouTube channel, and was that the start of it, or did you start your website first and then move into creating content on YouTube?
It was pretty much at the same time. I had another channel. I think that's just my name, and it's still up there, Adam Haritan. And I have a couple videos on there. But I quickly switched over to the business name, which is Learn Your Land, because I didn't want it to be about me. And back then, and I don't know if it's still true, but I felt like more people would take me seriously and not treat me as just a hobbyist if I used my business name and not just my personal name. So it's roughly at the same time.
Yep. And
yeah,
how long
that's
has
how
that
I did
been?
it.
How long has that been?
I started the channel, I think, in 2015. So if you're seeing, oh, you've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, I've been on YouTube for a long time. So it's
Okay.
almost 10 years at this point. But I only really make maybe 12 to 15 videos per year. So I don't do any shorts, at least not yet. I don't just randomly throw out quick videos. And I know a lot of channels do that, and they do quite well. I take my time with them because I spend a lot of time learning and researching. And I truly think of my videos, and I know this sounds strange, but I only tell my closest friends this. I think of a lot of my videos like art because, I studied music growing up. And with music, music's an art. It's very crafty. It's very creative. It's very thoughtful. It's very intentional. And I was never an improviser in my music studies. I always took it very seriously. I studied classical music. I studied even like rock and roll and punk and all that kind of stuff. But it was never improvisational. It was very structured. And that's how I treat my videos. Very structured. And I really pay attention even to the music that I put into my videos. Even though the music only comprises maybe 10 seconds of the total video, sometimes I spend more time looking for a good song to put in the beginning or at the end or somewhere in the middle than I do editing the entire video itself. Yeah. I just do. I love it. I really love the music aspect of it.
And I think that your the style, the method that you just talked about is what got me hook, line, and sinker, because I found myself doing a deep dive into all your videos, and I start watching, and like you said, Adam, they're beautiful. The pictures, the shots that you use, what's in the background. You will go out into the woods and film. I'm assuming you just have a tripod, but you get the way you use lighting and the background, the wind, the noises that you hear in there it's just very real, and you feel like you're out in the woods with you, and then you're showing us how everything works.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, if I ever film inside, which is incredibly rarely, maybe the only videos on YouTube of me inside would be like a podcast like we're doing right now. But people think it's weird that I'm inside because 99.9% of my content out there, I'm outside somewhere. And that presents its own challenges because I'm constantly studying the weather. I'm studying the wind patterns. I'm studying the cloud coverage because I want optimal conditions for filming. And I don't always get that. So some videos, they don't look as good as the other ones. But I don't want to obsess over it. and
Sure.
wait 2 weeks for that perfect opportunity to film myself out in the woods. So I'll just try to take advantage of any opportunities I get. And sometimes the videos I think look great, sometimes they don't look as great, but um, I do put a lot of work into them, and I try to make them as beautiful as possible. So thanks for noticing.
Yeah, I
Sure.
think it definitely shows as well. It definitely, presents great compared to some content out there. It's almost like you're watching like a documentary, like TV series, or like uh, the old like nature shows or like Discovery Channel, something like that. That's what I got the feel of watching when I was tuning into some of your videos. So very nicely done. The one question I had on like, do you mostly stay within your area when you're both mushroom hunting, tree hunting, or do you travel to other parts of the country as well?
So one of the things about learn your land is that I'm a strong advocate of staying local and learning your land. And that's where the your comes in, and learn your land. Some people think, "Oh, you mean like the land that you own? How can you own land?" And that's not what it means. It's not possessive. It just means the land where you live today. And that's why even on my website I say I'm a faithful adherent to Western Pennsylvania, because that's where I live. And I love learning this landscape. And there's just so much to learn that I'll never be able to learn it in this lifetime. And I feel like if I go too far away and start obsessing over other landscapes and other parts of the world, I'm kind of cheating on Western Pennsylvania. Having said that, I do go outside Western Pennsylvania and film. So my latest online course is an ecosystems course. It's an ecology course that teaches you different ecosystems. That's all over Eastern North America. Because not all the ecosystems in that course, for example, cedar glades, are found in Pennsylvania, or large sand dunes in Pennsylvania. Although we do have Lake Erie, so we have some small sand dunes, but I had to travel a bit for that. And I do see the benefit of traveling because it helps you see what you do have in your home area and what you don't have, and you can compare and contrast and see the similarities and differences. But for the most part, I mean, I'm filming as local as 2 miles away. Um, but usually it's within an hour, so maybe 30 or 40 miles. And some people watching the videos on YouTube who are from Western Pennsylvania, they know exactly where I am. They'll
Yeah,
send me an email and be
yeah.
like, "You're in this area, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." But I try to
Yeah.
fool people sometimes. Like I'll film one video in 4 different locations to throw people
Oh,
Oh
nice.
wow. Yeah. So Adam, let me ask you this. Okay, you get in your car, you go for a ride, you turn up a road, you turn up another road, you see a nice wooded hillside. You get out of your car and you look at the woods. What do you see? What do you see that a normal person like me would not see, or a normal person like Dan? What are you seeing when you walk up to a woods and you start looking?
So I'm normal, just like you. So you might see the same things that I see. I mean, there's
You
nothing special about what I see or what I do. But I do pay attention to certain things that maybe some people wouldn't pay attention to. So you mentioned woods. So I mean, right off the bat, I'm seeing trees. So it's a wooded habitat. But the thing that's becoming super apparent to me immediately is the size of the trees, which tells me how old that wooded area or that forest is. And instantly, I can determine generally like an age of the forest, meaning is it
Mhm.
super young, just like 20, 30 years? Is it a little older, maybe 60, 75? Is it a mature forest? So would it be like 100 to 125, 150? Or is it an old growth forest, meaning it's like 200 years plus? Rarely is it an old growth forest because I don't randomly stumble upon old growth forests. It's exciting when I come across older growth trees, though, in a younger forest. And those are very easy to determine because, I mean, those are those like wolf trees that have wide open crowns in the middle of a forest where light isn't really reaching those smaller branches on the underside of the tree. So those branches are dying, but they still retain them. Um, but I'm generally looking at the sizes of the trees and the species as well to determine the age of the forest, past uses of the landscape. So I start to ask myself, well, why is this a younger forest? Was this private land? Is it public land? Did they log this? Was it agriculture? Was it mined? So I'm determining that. And then I'm determining soil conditions and geology based on the species composition. Meaning, am I seeing a lot of like oaks and maybe hemlock or pine, telling me maybe it's more of an acidic soil? Or am I seeing basswood? Am I seeing maybe chinkapin oak, hackberries, telling me that maybe it's more of a calcareous or calcium-based limey kind of soil? Those are the things I'm generally looking for.
Wow, that's interesting. And then is it public land that you usually venture out on, or do you like, ask and consult with landowners to get their permission to go, maybe just go walk around their woods? Like, how does all that work? Because I know around here in Wisconsin, like if you're caught on someone else's land just walking through their woods, it can be a pretty big deal. It's like they just don't want people walking around their land.
Yeah, it's mostly public land.
Okay.
Mostly county parks, sometimes city parks, but state parks. We have a great state park system in Pennsylvania, and they're all free. So you don't need a pass. You don't need to check in or anything like that. You just go and you can walk around. We have a lot of game lands as well. We have the Allegheny National Forest, but most of the videos and the explorations are county parks, state parks, game lands, sometimes Allegheny National Forest. Rarely do I venture onto private property unless I'm on public property and I see something neat and it's private property and I might step foot and check something out really quickly. Or if I have to get from point A to point B and I got to cut through someone's private property, I'll walk on it, but I try not to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't harvest anything on private property. I don't do anything bad on it. It's just if I'm like kind of lost or I need to get through to a place, I'll just kind of sneak onto it really quickly.
In your YouTube video of the elm tree, you were out in the middle of, it seemed like you were out in the middle of nowhere, and did you stumble upon that massive elm, or did you know it was there? And what does that mean when you see a tree like that out in the middle of the woods?
So I'm glad you thought it was the middle of nowhere, because it wasn't. It wasn't that far from civilization. In fact, it was a local park. And
wow.
sometimes, I mean, like, it's literally 100 yards from a main road where I am, which presents challenges for filming because you hear traffic, you hear dogs barking, you hear people, you'll hear bicyclists. But sometimes that's the closest I can film. It's going to rain later that day. I just need to get something done super quickly. So that wasn't in the middle of nowhere. It was actually a local park. As far as that big elm at the end, which was huge in diameter and height as well, and it looked super healthy to me. I mean, I didn't see any signs of Dutch elm disease. That was in a part of the park which was in a narrow stream valley, which I don't know why that tree was still there. There's actually a golf course right up above it. I don't know if you could tell, it's kind of cleared in the background, but there was a golf course up there, and the stream valley was left behind. It was definitely logged. There were no old growth trees there. Even that big elm wasn't an old growth tree, but it was at least 100 years old, maybe even older than that. I actually stumbled upon that tree many years ago. And I think in the video I mentioned I've been visiting this tree for many years just to check up on it. I just stumbled upon it. And interestingly, stream valleys are good places to find older trees or more intact habitats, because narrow valleys are usually less developed than floodplains or ridge tops, because it's just harder to get into and harder to put housing development in. It's harder to get trees out of there if you're a logging company.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's why, Pittsburgh has a reputation of being a heavily, relatively speaking, a wooded city. Like, we've got a lot of trees, but that's only because we have so many steep hillsides, mostly carved out by the Ohio River, the Allegheny River, the Monongahela River. So you've got these really steep slopes that nobody's going to put a housing development on.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes people try. Like, we have the South Side slopes, and so there are developments on there. But right where, like, Mount Washington is, I don't know if you've been to Pittsburgh and you know where that is. It's a heavily sloped hillside with a lot of trees now. Now, that was mined for coal centuries ago, but the trees have come back. And so there's a lot of trees around there. All this to say, if you're looking for more intact habitats, sometimes you can find them in sloped valleys. And that's where I found that American elm. And it was a pretty steep valley.
Yeah. So I want to remind everyone out there listening to the Woodhounds podcast, we are talking with Adam Haritan. He is the creator of Learn Your Land, the website, and the YouTube channel. He is a passionate person for, I guess, the woods, the habitat. He started. Well, I guess Adam, did you get your start? You said as a forager for mushrooms. Is that how it started for you?
Yeah, it was mostly through foraging mushrooms and plants.
And what is your favorite mushroom to eat? What is your favorite one?
That's the $1 million question. So I get asked that question. I get asked that question a lot, and I don't know how to answer it because I don't have a favorite mushroom. But if I had to choose, like if somebody said you have to choose, or else something bad's going to happen to you, I will probably choose the maitake mushroom or hen of the woods. It's that big
Yes.
mushroom, grayish brownish, that grows at the bases, typically of oak trees, but it'll grow at the bases of other trees in the fall. And I
And
love that mushroom because it's big. Um, you get a lot of food out of it if you just find one. Like if you find one morel, it's exciting, but it's just one little morel.
yeah,
And I know they can grow somewhat decent size, but not as big as a maitake mushroom. And there's some good medicinal research on it as well. It stores well. You can dehydrate it. You can cook it and freeze it. It rehydrates really well. So it's just like a really versatile mushroom that tastes like meat. It's very good.
and that's the hen of the woods. You said right?
Yes,
Because
hen of
there's
the
a
woods.
chicken of the woods too, right?
Yes, chicken is orangish
Yeah,
in
that's
color. Sometimes it's peachish colored or pinkish. Yeah, that's chicken of the woods. That's another good mushroom, but I'll take hen of the woods any day over chicken of the woods.
interesting.
Yeah.
I actually know of both those mushrooms because my brother kind of does the same thing, and my dad is a big morel mushroom hunter. But in my woods, I've noticed that whenever I've had an oak tree cut down, I'll leave the stump a little high, and I'll always get those chicken of the woods mushrooms, the big orange ones growing on them like crazy.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty common.
Have you ever made a mistake and ate the wrong type
Of mushroom or food in general?
of
Because I've
mushrooms?
made a
Yeah.
lot of food mistakes in my life, but as far as mushrooms, no, I haven't. I've gotten sick eating mushrooms, but it's not because I made a mistake. It's because my body stopped tolerating them, which is not that uncommon
Oh
for
wow.
somebody to eat
Hmm.
mushrooms for a while and then all of a sudden you just can't tolerate them anymore. So interestingly, my and I haven't tested this in maybe a couple years only because it was just causing too much distress in my body, but my body doesn't tolerate shiitake mushrooms too well. And shiitake is not a wild mushroom. People cultivate those and grow them. But I try to avoid shiitake mushrooms. I don't think I've ever said that publicly. But
Oh my,
I
we're
said
getting
it to
all
you
kinds of
guys.
stuff
Yeah.
here.
So
Yeah. Your secret is safe with us, Adam.
Yes.
yeah, but as far as
Yeah.
harvesting a mushroom, thinking it was one thing, eating it and finding out it's something else, no, I've never done that because with many things in life, I'm a perfectionist and I try to make sure all my bases are covered before I do anything. That goes for
That,
releasing a video,
Yeah.
that goes for
okay.
traveling, going away, doing research, and harvesting mushrooms. And that's a good thing when harvesting mushrooms because you don't want to make a mistake.
I would
But
think
no, I
you don't.
haven't made those kinds of mistakes. I know many people who have, maybe because they're not perfectionists like me. And I'm not saying it's a
Yeah.
good trait to have. I think it's just the way that I was raised.
Okay. Yeah. So let me ask you this: Did you? I I don't get the impression that you were like Jeremiah Johnson and and like a grizzled woodsman that goes out and lives for a week out in the woods. That's not you, right?
Um, no, not really. I didn't get into this because of like the prepping survival skills side of it.
Uh
And
huh.
some people do get into it because of that. I mean, I do spend a lot of time outside in the woods. And I've done extensive backpacking trips, but I'm not into that side of things. I it just never really appealed to me.
Sure.
So no, I'm not like that. I'm not too grizzly. But I imagine Jeremiah Johnson can't play Beethoven sonata on 4 different instruments.
Oh,
Oh.
listen to you. Listen to you.
No diss to
Yeah.
Jeremiah. No, I can't do that anymore. But yeah, we're different people.
You also have online courses that you have created and that people participate in. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so for anybody who's interested in a more curated learning experience, rather than just searching things online and piecing things together themselves, I do have online courses that take you through seasons and help you forage mushrooms and help you identify trees and help you learn ecology through the learning of ecosystems. So this is not on YouTube. It's not publicly available. These are all private courses that you can sign up for at my website, learnyourland.com. And it's meant for beginners. So if you've never foraged a mushroom before, that's perfect because this course is for you. I mean, it's designed for people who have absolutely no knowledge when it comes to foraging wild mushrooms, or if you only feel comfortable identifying a couple mushrooms, or if you want to take your tree identification skills to a new level and learn to identify over 100 trees. I've got a course on that as well. So they kind of build upon one another because when you're learning to forage mushrooms, you learn quickly that you need to know how to identify trees because many mushrooms are associated with specific trees. And you'll only become a better mushroom hunter and forager if you learn trees. So that's where the tree course comes in because if you want to become a better forager, learn your trees. But when you learn trees, you soon understand that when you learn ecology and ecosystems, you could better predict which trees will be found in which habitats. I mentioned before about acidic habitats versus calcareous habitats, but floodplains have different tree compositions than ridge tops, than cedar glades, than dunes, than bogs and fens. And learning different ecosystems really helps you see how all these different, seemingly disparate components are actually connected. So all those are available at my website.
Very nice.
Excellent.
We have on the Woodhounds podcast, we have a course on tree identification. It's called "They Are All Firewood." No, but actually, there's probably some listeners out there who would be interested in that because that is one thing that actually comes up quite a bit in firewood is identifying trees and what type of wood, it is. And so, like, do you have any firewood experience, or like, do you deal with firewood at all, or? I mean, I know you're a hobbyist in the other stuff. What are your firewood skills like here?
Not good. So I admit it, not very good. I don't have a fireplace inside or outside. However, I do love fires. And whenever I go over friends' houses or sometimes family members who have fire pits, I'm always asking, what wood are you burning? And I will say that one of my favorite woods, and I don't know if you guys agree with this or not, or if you like this wood as well, but I love Eastern red cedar, which is actually a juniper. But I love the color of the wood, and I love the smell of the wood as well. And I don't think it lasts very long. Correct me if I'm wrong, but some people say it's a very hot and fast burning wood.
Yep.
But I don't know. The smell is just like the smell of a campfire by itself is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But once you add an Eastern red cedar or juniper, it just like takes it to a whole new level. It's almost like you threw a pack of incense in there.
Oh, yeah.
It just changes it completely. Yep. So, I mean, I can appreciate that. But, I mean, I do have an interest in it. It's just because I don't have a practical use for it right now. It's just not top of mind for me. But in the near future, I hope to change all that.
Yeah. In a weird way for me, being in firewood, it has made me appreciate trees at a level I've never experienced. It's like, I think a lot of people just look out at a forest and they just see a forest. I can see an elm growing in the middle of a bunch of other trees. I can see an oak. I have this different level of appreciation from the firewood thing. And then certainly species identification. I think it would be nice to know what it is before it gets cut down. But do you have any experience or any opinions, or the role of timber harvest? I don't know if like clear cut, that there's different styles of logging that are out there. It's just clear cut everything down and go, then select cut. About ways to make a forest more healthy. Do you have any experience with that?
So I observe a lot when I'm out there, and I've walked through clear cuts. I've walked through different segments of like what they're called experimental forests, where they're trying different cuts and seeing what's coming back and seeing how the forest changes. And the more that I study ecosystems, and this became really apparent when I was creating the ecosystems course. We're kind of told this story that Eastern North America was just nothing but like a vast forest of like huge trees when Europeans came over here. And to some extent, that's true in some areas, but it was a mosaic of different ecosystems, including different sizes of forests, different sizes of trees in those forests, and just areas where forests didn't exist. For example, where bogs might reside, or marshes, or fens. But a lot of the forests at the time of European settlement weren't dense, dark, pristine wildernesses made up of nothing but old growth trees. There were open woodlands and savannas, and they were open because of burning practices that opened them up. And so when I see logging companies going in and selectively cutting areas, I'm thinking, well, they're kind of mimicking what used to be done on a very large scale by indigenous people living on the continent, which is opening up areas and allowing more sunlight to come through to actually increase the biodiversity of an area. Because if you spend a lot of time in dark old growth forests, and there aren't a lot of them, but in Eastern North America, when I think of old growth forests, the ones that I've experienced, it sounds like it can't be true, but it kind of is. There's not a lot of biodiversity in there when you're thinking about the plants, because it's just so dark. Now, there's other reasons for that as well. Maybe there's a heavy deer presence in there. So the deer are eating all the understory, and they're not allowing a lot of woody species to regenerate. But to a very large extent, biodiversity is decreased when the forest canopy closes. Now, there's a lot of benefit to certain species when the forest canopy closes, but when you open it up, you allow sunlight to come in. That's when a lot of other plants start to move in. You're creating different edge effects, and a lot of animals like those edges, where maybe an older growth forest meets a younger growth forest, or a forest meets a field, or a field meets a swamp. And so if you're cutting trees, you're kind of mimicking natural blowdowns, or you're mimicking maybe a fire to some degree, not completely, because with fire, you're changing the chemical profile of the soil as well. So I don't mind that much when I see people going and doing that kind of stuff. I approach it with different eyes than I used to when I first got into exploring nature, thinking that any removal of a tree is bad for the ecosystem. But that's not necessarily true, because you can be doing a lot of good. It's hard to define what good is, because in nature, I mean, things just are. I don't think things are good or bad. But in human eyes, you can be doing a lot of good if you selectively remove some trees.
Interesting. That's like our area was once known as the beech maple belt, because the way the beech and the maple grew, and it just dominated the canopy and nothing else was allowed to grow until people started cutting them down.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of that beech maple belt in Western Pennsylvania. I actually filmed a video on that where I explored a mature forest. It's neat to go in one of those kinds of habitats, but that's a very rare habitat in Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, Adam, there's one thing we do with every guest we have here on the podcast, and we call it the wood hounding. It is a series of questions that we ask you, rapid fire, just one word answers as quick as you can think of them, just right down the line. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Just one word only, not two.
Well, you can use you can use a couple words, but just real quick, like first thing that comes to your mind, that's your answer.
Okay, but it can be a phrase. Is that what you're saying? It could be a phrase. Okay.
Yeah, but we must reiterate here, Adam, that this is a serious process, and you must fulfill your obligations, or you will suffer a severe woodhound penalty. Are you up for the challenge?
I think I have no choice. So yes, I'm up for the challenge.
Yep.
All right, you're going to be under time constraints. So Dan will start the clock, and he will ask the first question.
All right, here we go. Adam, what car did you take your driver's test in?
Oh, jeez. I think it was a Toyota Camry. It was my uncle's.
Adam, what is your favorite chainsaw?
I don't own a chainsaw, so I do not have a favorite chainsaw.
He doesn't own a chainsaw. Dan, where do we get this guy?
The answer is Steel 500i. Just say that. All right.
Like Dan said.
What is your favorite fast food restaurant?
I don't eat at fast food, so I don't have a favorite fast food restaurant. They're all the same to me.
Where is your dream vacation?
I don't have a dream vacation. Somewhere I don't know. I don't have a dream vacation.
Eastern Pennsylvania instead of Western.
Yeah, Eastern Pennsylvania.
The Marcellus Shale.
I don't think about that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, what about, do you believe in UFOs or UAPs, I guess, now that they're known as?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is or who is your favorite band?
The Ramones.
And I think we've already answered this, but what is your favorite firewood species?
Eastern Red Cedar.
Would you rather go to a truck pull or a symphony orchestra?
Symphony Orchestra.
Who is your favorite historical figure?
Vincent Van Gogh.
And who is your favorite sports team?
Jeez. I don't have any. I don't watch sports.
Whoa! We'll give you the applause anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Those are questions I don't think about at all.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem. You actually did better than some in the past. So don't
Yeah,
feel
a couple
bad.
people crashed and burned.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't gonna lie. I could say Pittsburgh Steelers, but I just don't. I don't follow them, so I can't even call them
Never-
favorite.
Never heard of them. There
Yeah.
you go. Never heard
Cleveland
of 'em.
Browns. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. Now you're talking.
Oh.
All right. Well, Adam, I want to thank you for coming and joining Dan and I here at the Woodhounds podcast. And you are just a fascinating person. And tell us again, you are a YouTube channel. You have a website. What's your website? Tell us how people that are out there listening can find you.
So you can easily find me if you just search Learn Your Land. So the website is learnyourland.com. The YouTube channel is Learn Your Land. Instagram, Facebook. If you type that in, you'll find me.
We'll find you. All right.
You'll find me.
All right. So, Adam, it was great meeting you. Great chatting with you. Very interesting. And yeah, people go out there, at least check out his YouTube videos, like the last one on the white pine. Great.
That was good.
Great video. So thanks again, Adam.
Yeah, thanks. It was a pleasure talking to both of you. Thanks for the invitation.
Dan, so I'm thinking let's strike up the band.
All right.
And okay, and I will tell you to be careful if you are going to go out into the woods and eat
Mushrooms.
and stay.
Safe.
And Adam, have
A great day.